Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing stories from real estate investors and how investing has changed their lives. This episode of the Inspire to Invest podcast has been brought to you by Plentitude, Inc. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast. I have Monika Jazyk here joining me from Toronto, or I should say closer to Markham, which is not too far from where I am here in Pickering. She's the founder of RPI Education, the world's fastest growing investment community, and she's on a personal mission to help everyday people invest like the top 2% so that they can create wealth through real estate as well as alternative investments so they can reach their financial and personal goals. To date, RPI Education has assisted thousands of people across the world to help build wealth and create time, money, and freedom in their lives. I think that's something that all of us could use a little bit more of. So thank you for your time today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
So obviously you've got this really well-known company. Can you take us back to the beginning and what you were doing kind of before real estate came into your life?
Well, before real estate came into my life, I was a full-time mother.
Nice.
And so earlier on, before we were even thinking about real estate, my husband and I made a decision after I finished my master's of teaching. We had our first son. And I had to go and finish a 12-week practicum in the classroom and just felt myself, I was pretty young. I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
And as much as I knew at that time, I just knew it felt like I wanted my number one job to really be a mother to
Yeah.
this child and any other kids.
Yeah.
So when we started our adult lives as married people and parents, and then next step was homeowners,
Mm-hmm.
we realized how expensive it is to live on one salary. Even
Yeah.
though my husband was making great money, it was still really, really expensive. So money was really put to the forefront. And my job as being a full-time mother
Yeah.
was managing the finances. So I was
Yeah.
always really interested in that aspect. And I was following all the traditional gurus like Susie Orman and the wealthy barber, and we were
Yeah.
saving 10% and, setting it and forgetting it and doing
Yeah.
all these traditional financial planning things.
Yeah.
And that's when 2008 hit and everything just disappeared. So I didn't
Yeah.
even like think about real estate investing or anything financial really in that aspect until, this really happened.
Yeah.
And my number one goal before any of this was really being a full-time stay-at-home parent.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that really interesting just because when you think of a lot of stay-at-home parents, like I think it was very common that the men would take care of the finances, right? Because they're the ones working. And even speaking to my own mom, she's like, your dad used to give me an allowance. Like he was so tight. And, it was just kind of funny when you see like how things obviously have shifted. But to your point, like so many people lost everything during 2008, right? Like I know people close to me that have as well. So, and in spite of those things happening, now the big battle is inflation. So I think people just really need to think outside of the box and try to figure out how they can get ahead, right? I think real estate really gives us the best vehicle. So basically, you said 2008 happened. So where did you go next? And kind of where did you make that jump into real estate?
Well, 2008 was really our light bulb moment because that's when we realized all our hard-earned savings just literally went up in smoke
Yeah.
overnight. And we just realized that it's time to invest different.
Yeah.
And around that same time, the book Rich Dad Poor Dad crossed my desk. And I was just, I love that book. It's my
Yeah.
absolute favorite book. It won't teach you how to invest in real estate, but it will teach you that real estate definitely is the number one investment.
Yeah.
And from that, it just was like a 180 perspective on our financial planning views. And my
Yeah.
husband was like really gung ho about
Yeah.
investing in real estate. And one day he came home from work so frustrated and tired, and we were all annoyed with this whole 2008 crisis. And he's like, "We're buying a property and that's it." It was
Yeah.
just like kind of like that moment where the pain is just so much, you got to do something different. And we just had to move forward. And that's when we started taking it really, really seriously. And this would be close to like the 2009, 2000 and sort of 10
Yeah.
era is when we ended up buying actually three investment properties.
Yeah. And where did
And
you buy
that's
those?
well, our first investment property was in Blue Mountain. We
Okay.
just actually got back from vacationing there.
Nice.
And so we chose a really safe property because it was something we were familiar with. I grew up skiing in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And price wise, it was low. So it was like in the $200,000 range, I think.
Yeah.
This is a long time ago. We've done this for 14 years, so I can't remember.
Yeah.
And it was something that we understood and we felt like it was personal because we love skiing and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so we could use it
Yeah.
and make money. And this is the way that we can get into investing. So
Yeah.
that was the first property that we bought. We talk about
Yeah.
this in the book, Real Estate Mistakes. And each section has really a hindsight's 2020. So we did some things right,
Yeah.
and then we did a lot of things wrong. But that really was our very first investment.
Yeah.
And then our second and third investment led to a long-term relationship with this particular area,
Yeah.
which was in Timmins, Ontario.
Yeah.
Yep. And we were buying $40,000 homes and renting them out for $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And we thought that was it. That was the place to invest.
Yeah.
And this is where our focus was. And that's when we really started running it more as a real estate business and buying all sorts of properties there. And
Yeah.
that also was the pivotal moment of in real estate mistakes, us making over $1 million in mistakes the first few years
Yeah.
as beginner real estate investors.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
find that really interesting. So why did you end up choosing Timmins at that time? Was it just that you were looking at the price points? Like I do know a lot of people that have very big portfolios and like Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, Timmins. So I'm just curious to see like
yeah,
what led you there.
yes, I will pray for all of them. Um, so what I said there was my mother actually was born there.
Okay.
And Vaughn, my husband, was born in a town in Australia, very similar to Timmins. And I lived with him there for many, many years. We are very accustomed to the remote lifestyle in
Yeah.
that regards, like,
Hmm.
and we were accustomed to a need for housing and the inflated price of housing in regards to renting
Yeah.
in those types of areas.
Yeah.
And initially it was the lower price point was a main desirable aspect of it because we learned how to leverage. We actually leveraged our primary residence. That's the only way we got money to invest in real estate.
Yeah.
And so it was very, very easy for us, to buy multiple properties there, thinking we were doing the right thing,
Yeah.
opposed to buying more like Blue Mountain, like even Blue Mountain, which was a lot cheaper than where we live now.
Yeah.
It was like 4 times, 5 times the price
Yeah.
as what we were buying in Timmins, Ontario.
Yeah. Now, I guess when you look at that, what would you say were some of the big mistakes, and like why would you look at that as maybe not a desirable market based on what you know now?
Oh, well, the main mistakes that we really made was we did way too much too soon. And in our first year of real estate investing, we did over 100 deals in real estate with
Hmm.
ourselves and with others. And we weren't just in Timmins, we were doing every strategy under the sun because, like so many of us, we invested in those really expensive real estate courses
Yeah.
that teach you every single aspect of real estate investing.
Yeah.
And I think as parents, we had 3 kids at this time. And as parents, that was a really huge, decision for us to take to spend almost $100,000
Yeah.
in real estate education. And it's
Yeah.
unbelievable that a lot of people don't even complete the courses.
Yeah.
But I remember distinctly sitting down and really mapping it out how we can make this work. And we
Yeah.
completed 6 courses twice with a full mentorship in less than 4 months.
Wow.
And we really made that our priority. And while we were doing it, we were completing those types of transactions. So if we're learning about buy, rent, and hold, we were doing buy, rent, hold. We were learning about land development, we were land developing. We were doing rent to owns, we
Yeah.
were rent to owning. And it was so much shiny penny syndrome going on. And I thought as a full-time real estate investor, that's what that's supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And I thought it was supposed to be really exciting. And you have to remember too, because as a young mom, really planning to put our, I guess you could say, our career on hold and to focus on kids. I
Yeah.
am quite an ambitious person. Like I always did run businesses on the side.
Yeah.
But this all of a sudden with real estate investing was really like a whole new world.
Yeah.
And real estate investing introduces you to money that you never will see in any other type of investment. So the transactions are very, very lucrative, which is also very, very exciting. And
Yeah.
it's really great to be excited when you start taking courses and you take education.
Yeah.
It opens up a whole new world of possibilities that you just will not get
Yeah.
from your day job. So because we are so excited and we made the investment, we just decided to go for it. I
Yeah.
guess we got a little overexcited and doing too much too soon. There's only so much people can really handle.
Yeah.
So we are
Yeah. I think
making
you
so
have
much
to
money,
just be
but we
mindful of your bandwidth, right? So like you can take
exactly.
your eyes, if there's too many balls in there, you're going to drop some, right? So when you look at scaling your portfolio that quickly, what would you say were some of the biggest obstacles and like where did things start to fall apart?
Well, we had no systems and we had no mentorship. Like there was no supportive community. So there's a lot
Mhm.
of trainers out there. They sell expensive courses,
Yeah.
but where was my coach when I was in the
Yeah.
construction field and my whole development was going belly up? Like,
Yeah.
where was he then? So it really is people, the only way to invest in real estate is learning through doing, and you
Yeah.
will make mistakes unless you have a mentor, unless you have a coach who's actually with you
Yeah.
or a community that's with you to guide you in real time. And
Yeah.
because we didn't have that support or those systems in play,
Yeah.
like while I was busy playing fancy schmancy real estate investor, I didn't do my taxes for 3 years.
Yeah.
I wasn't setting up my corporate structures the right way.
Yeah.
We were not utilizing all the different aspects of wealth building
Yeah.
that is needed to maximize, your returns and why we're doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
So I got so caught up in the game, I forgot all the systems and the underlyings that will make you a successful, real estate investor.
Yeah.
And
And I
back
think
and
you're just talking about building your fundamentals, right? And building your foundation. And I think it's one of those things sometimes where you see the investors that dive in head first and they're doing a lot, maybe too much too fast, and then they could be over leveraged or make mistakes. And then there's the other people that are so focused on trying to get it perfect and they almost waste too much time because they're building their foundation. And, it is good, but you kind of have to have that balance between setting things up and like learning and scaling without taking on too much.
yeah.
Do you think now, like with what you have learned in the last 15 years, if you could go back based on what you've learned, what would you do differently?
I would have worked with a less is more strategy. Real estate is such a powerful strategy that you do not need 100 properties. If
Yeah.
you have 100 properties in real estate investing, you're probably doing something wrong,
Yeah.
unless you're operating as a fund
Or
and
multifamily.
using well, unless you're doing multifamily, but even then, if you have 100 properties in multifamily, that's your real estate business.
Yeah.
And it should probably be operated as a fund or an
Yeah.
apartment syndication
Yeah.
or these types of, institutions rather
Yeah.
than just collecting homes.
Yeah.
Because having 100 homes is like having 100 kids. And I have 4 kids.
Yeah.
So I would rather have a 10 property portfolio that's worth $20 million than 100 property. And I meet a lot of people, investors too, and they're like, oh, I have like 47 units or 167 units.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, why are you still doing this? I'm like, you should, they're still working,
Yeah.
and it's like, is your portfolio not at like $92 million? How much money does one really
Yeah.
need?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just say, no, my portfolio is only like 67 units and the portfolio is at $12 million
Yeah.
or $10 million, then you kind of now I focus on A class markets. We went to tertiary markets
Yeah.
after, but even now in today's economy, we're moving in closer because the tertiaries are almost like A class markets
Yeah. And are
and
you
really
just focused
focusing
in
on.
Ontario?
We're all across Ontario and the US.
Okay. Which
And we
markets in
also
the
do
States?
Calgary. Sorry.
Which markets in the States?
We just developed a subdivision in Florida.
Okay.
So we developers as well. We work in Texas. We have some amazing opportunities in Texas, as well as Phoenix, Arizona,
Yeah.
and we have a team in LA.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
that's
I was just
where the
curious to
different
see,
chapters
like,
are.
because obviously you started in Timmins and you've obviously shifted and grown in the last 15 years. So I was just curious to see like where you're focused on at the moment. Now,
Oh, yes.
obviously there's been your fair share of challenges and stuff like that, but what would you say you're most proud of and maybe what you feel is your biggest success as a real estate investor so far?
I think that what I'm most proud of is really how many people we've helped get that time, money, freedom in their lives just by sharing our authentic experiences as investors.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for the $1 million of mistakes because it made us excellent consultants
Yeah.
because there's no area of investments that we have not
Touched at this
dipped our
point.
feet in.
Yeah.
And, now obviously it's like a lot less is more, but we have amazing teams and
Hmm.
systems to help people.
Yeah.
So, and I'm also very proud of our portfolio too. It's like Timmins seems like a huge distance. Now we're downtown Toronto, we're in Markham, we're
Yeah.
in Calgary, we're in British Columbia, Halifax, and those areas I mentioned in the States as well as Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we have such a solid portfolio in high growth markets with A plus assets, I
Hmm.
find that really, really exciting. And it's something that actually, really adds value to the life, not
Yeah.
rather than owning a bunch of problem properties in Northern Ontario.
No, awesome. So on that note, we're just going to take a really brief break for a word from our sponsors and we'll be right back. Inspired to Invest is proud to support the Beyond Success program. In today's complex world, it's absolutely crucial for our youth to learn how to take charge of their financial future. We believe that every young person deserves access to accurate, practical financial information. Designed to bridge the gap, the Beyond Success program leverages a comprehensive educational bootcamp to equip young minds with essential financial literacy skills. At Beyond Success, it's not just about teaching financial literacy, it's also about fostering a foundation for a prosperous and empowered future. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. I value transparency, integrity, and trust. If you choose to work with me, you can be assured that business will be conducted honestly and openly. Time is of the essence in this industry, so you can expect nothing short of quick, clear communication from me. I'll keep you informed every step of the way so you feel comfortable throughout this entire process. Our homes are where we eat, sleep, relax, and play. My clients' best interests are at the heart of everything I do. And with this said, my service to you doesn't end when the transaction does. As your realtor, I'll not only help you buy and sell your property, I'll also educate and support you along the way. I want to help you fulfill your goal of home ownership and become your trusted real estate resource for life. I can't wait to share my passion for real estate with you. More importantly, find you the perfect house to turn into your home. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in Durham Region or Toronto? Let's chat. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Inspired to Invest podcast. I have Monika Jazyk here with me, and she's sharing all about her experiences as a real estate investor over the last 15 to 17 years. I'm trying to do the math in my head. But in terms of growing your portfolios, you talked about, moving from Timmins into all of these big, robust markets. For a lot of people, they could be priced out of these markets. I'm just curious to know how you're doing it. So I know what you're doing, but can you talk about how you're funding this? Are you joint venturing? Do you have funds? Like, how did you manage to scale and shift into those marketplaces?
That's an excellent question. So I think most investors, real estate investors, it's really, really important to start with yourself. And so one, yes, we do buy properties just for ourselves, for our personal portfolio. And
Yeah.
then we do have our invest with others, which is our real estate business. So I think it's
Yeah.
really important when people determine what money problems do I need to solve for myself. Let's get my own financial house in order. Now I'm running a real estate business. How could I help others?
Yeah.
So more or less for ourselves, the areas that we're investing in, they are smaller deals. We're really strong advocates for building more homes.
Hmm.
And what we love to do is to do single family to multi conversions.
Yeah.
So we're creating more homes for people in these high growth areas. One key is to make money when you buy in real estate. We do not buy ugly homes. We buy really great homes that we like to rent out to Henrys, high
Yeah.
earners, not rich yet, and really focus on sort of that midterm rental market. So we're not
Yeah.
priced out of the market.
Yeah.
So our main focus is to really buy these homes in these really beautiful areas, figure out how we can do that value add to them, make the money when we buy, do the value add to them, and then do the strategic refinance so we keep it and run it. And now we have more than one income, and we're providing housing in those areas.
Yeah.
So we do consulting for that for others, but we also have that in our portfolio. And then for our portfolio with joint venture partners, if we're doing developments, we've worked with those 18 homes we just built in Florida now in a really high growth area in Florida. So we're really close to our Florida team.
Yeah.
And we got those homes off the ground. And same with in Texas, those are more development opportunities
Yeah.
that we're doing.
Hmm.
And so investors can partake in these areas, whether they actually end up buying the house themselves to invest their money, and we do the growth strategy as the joint venture partner,
Yeah.
or sometimes it's more of a share structure that is set up in regards to the overall development.
Got it. Yeah, I just find that really helpful and just interesting for people to learn because I think for someone that is new to investing, it can be really intimidating. And you look at someone that has, these really substantial portfolios and you're like, how did they do this? So I always want to shed light on how individual investors have approached that and scaled over the years. Now, with that said, what would you say is the craziest thing that you've experienced as a real estate investor so far?
Oh my gosh. Well, the craziest thing, I think there's a lot of crazy stories in real estate investing. And I think the craziest thing would be dealing with the property management fiasco once again in Northern Ontario.
Hmm.
And to the point where we actually had a fraud case with the property management. They said all
Yeah.
the units are vacant and yada yada yada. But meanwhile, we found out they were not. They were being rented,
Yeah.
and the money was exchanged. We had to end up in court, and I had to actually end up I'm on Zoom, and I'm in a Zoom court because it's in Timmins, and I'm actually testifying against a property manager in an alleged fraud case. And I really thought to myself for that moment, is this seriously my life? And I was
Yeah.
watching all these other cases before me. So it
Yeah.
was just, one of those real eye-opening moments where real estate's often coined as a passive investment. It is not. It's if anyone tells you that, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Real estate is an active investment. Even if you have property management,
Yeah.
you have to manage the property managers.
Yeah, and I
So
don't think
choose
that
property
your
management
situation
wisely.
is 100% unique. I mean, I've invested with a company that just went through this, and they've got a fairly substantial portfolio. It's about $100 million with half of it in the East Coast. And that happened with their property manager. They basically stole their rent for September and October, and they're owed, several hundreds of thousands of dollars. So obviously now they're dealing with that situation and trying to resolve it. But at the end of the day, if you are trusting someone, especially if they are collecting money on your behalf, you have to be just so careful. And it doesn't mean even if you do due diligence, that things can't fall apart. But I think you just have to be very, very, very careful if you're trusting somebody with your assets. Now, in terms of advice, so obviously you run an education company, you've got a lot of mentorship and courses under your belt. What would you say is the best advice that you've ever received?
I think the best advice I ever received is from one of our business coaches that really helped us get our life back on track, Joey Ragona. And he really made us ask ourselves, what are you trading your life for? And we were really kind of, stuck with this, not get rich quick. We were working really hard, but a more is more mentality. And we were, stuck with the whole lifestyle and really in our heads.
Yeah.
When you really realize if your life starts owning you and living you rather than you living your life, that is not freedom. So
Yeah.
before I do any decisions, I always ask myself, or sign up for anything, like, what am I trading my life for? Because every time
Yeah.
you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a quote just recently and it said something like real estate should be a component of your life, not take over your life or own your life. Right. So I found
Well,
that.
I agree with that too, because not everyone has to be a full-time real estate investor. When you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, like people would compare themselves to me or our portfolio or yourself and your portfolio. I hope that they never even think that. I hope they're too busy living their lives and
Yeah.
watching their kids at soccer and
Yeah.
just knowing that their kids' university education is paid for, that
Yeah.
their retirement's covered, that they
Yeah.
have enough money every month. And all Canadians do not need to be full-time investors,
Yeah.
but all Canadians need real estate in their portfolio because if they don't start investing different,
Yeah.
they're not going to be any different than we were in 2008. And now we're kind
Yeah.
of living 2008 again.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone wants to be like Grant Cardone or something, right? Like you don't need to have thousands of units under your belt. And, I think at this point it's trying to get ahead, protect yourself with retirement. To your point about 2008, you want something that's tangible. And even though, yes, the housing market can fluctuate, you know that it's still there. Someone's not going to steal it and run away with it. It's not like a war or the weather is going to shift the stock market and things will collapse, right? So I think that's
Exactly.
one thing I've always really valued about real estate and just the inherent value of the fact that it is bricks and mortar. And even if there are cyclical changes, you'll still have something profound kind of at the end of it that has proven in the long run it's very much worth it. Now, in terms of how real estate has changed your life, obviously you went from being the stay-at-home mom to this really robust business. What would you say, aside from kind of the craziness, but would you say that that's really given you the life that you were hoping for and really how it's changed things for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we changed our entire financial situation and we created a life from everyday working class person to top 2%. And we created that now, created a legacy for our kids
Yeah,
and the way that our portfolio is structured and the finances are structured. And they are also entrusted in their portfolios.
yeah,
They're set for life. Their kids are set for life. Their kids' will be set for life.
yeah,
And that's the kind of legacy that we want everyday Canadians to start thinking, acting, and investing like the top 2%,
yeah,
because this is not just for that wealth class.
yeah,
Anyone can elevate their wealth. So
yeah,
that's if we didn't do this, we'd still be trading time for money. We'd be paying the premium in taxes,
yeah.
and we'd be capped as income earners and not be able to live the life that we are today. Like doing a podcast with you at 2 o'clock in the afternoon is a privilege
Yeah.
for
Yeah, not
both
everyone
of
has the
us. It shows
control
we're
of their
both
time
doing
in that way,
something.
right? So, now
Exactly.
since you have done so much, what would you say is really next for you? Like, do you feel like at this point you've reached your financial freedom number? Are you still working on acquiring that?
I've reached our financial freedom number a long time ago. I think that was really reached when my husband also on his 40th birthday quit his job and knocked on his boss's door on the same day as his birthday and said, I quit. And that was 7 years ago. So I
Yeah,
think really that marked the day where we have not had anyone write a check for us
yeah,
and that we both have been doing this full time.
yeah,
And so it's more about filling the wealth gap, what I'm focused on.
yeah.
Our real estate portfolio is consistently in flux based on business decisions of what works. We'll
Hmm.
sell when it's a smart move to sell. We acquire when it's a smart move to acquire.
Yeah.
We're sorted. Now we really want to get every Canadian up to par with their financial literacy,
Hmm.
and so they can really elevate their wealth, and we can really fill this wealth gap in actually Australia, UK, the US, and Canada.
Yeah.
We focus on all those major areas, and all of our books and literature and programs actually have all the different teams as well as features and documents in each one of those areas.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. I think at the end of the day, people often think of, real estate investing as the doorway to retirement. But I think at the end of the day, you still need to have a sense of purpose. And by giving back and kind of being able to kind of send the elevator down for the next person and help them up is something that's so fulfilling. So obviously the name of this podcast is Inspired to Invest. So I always like to ask people that I'm talking to if they have a particular quote that really motivates or inspires them.
I think that the quote that really, really inspired me and the game-changing quote, and I've always kind of lived my life on this premise. It's from Coco Chanel, and it says, "My life did not please me, so I changed my life." And I just want everyone to know, no matter where they are at this point in their life, no matter what they are going through or what they're currently experiencing, especially in this economic environment, you can create your own life. And every day you wake up in the morning, it's like a blank page. And this can be your day to do something different. So ask yourself, do I want it? And just make it happen. And that's what we like to help people do.
Yeah, no, I love that. Now, for anyone that wants to learn more about your investment opportunities or about your business, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, they can visit our website, www.rpieducation.com, or they could check out their bookstore and check out our books. We have, I can't really show you here, Real Estate Mistakes, and we have Real Estate Wins, which
Nice.
just came out actually. So what not to do, and then what to do. And these are sold
Great.
all over Canada and US bookstores as well as Amazon.
Awesome. So we'll include all of that in the show notes below. Of course, thank you for taking time out of your schedules for being with us today. And of course, as well to anyone that is tuning in, either listening or watching. If you have enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and that you're followed along at Inspired to Invest podcast on social. And of course, remember, when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Thanks again.
Thank you to Plenitude Inc. for bringing you this episode of Inspired to Invest. The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of securities. The host and guests featured on Inspired to Invest make no representations as to the performance of any particular investment. Should you decide to make an investment, you are responsible for conducting your own review and analysis. It is recommended that you obtain independent legal, accounting, and tax advice from licensed professionals.